Right, so today we're through in Dunfermline. We are fitting 17 solar panels. It's going to be a split system this time, so the customer's getting 8 on this pitch and they're going for 9 on the back. Essentially what we would do to start this off is you would come up, usually what we would do is aim to get the system pretty centred on the roof, but sometimes you would have obstacles like vents, Velux windows, etc. So we'd go up, measure the system out, and then from there you would start to install your roof hooks and rails. I'm going to explain how to do that in a wee second. But essentially what we do is we lift the tiles up, remove one of them, we grind a little bit of notch out just so that everything remains flush and watertight. From there we screw the roof hook down into the rafter, mount your rail onto that, and then that's what your panel will be secured to. But we'll show you lifting a wee tile out in a wee second. Right, so to lift your tile out, obviously everything's sort of overlapped on a roof. Now what we would do is lift the course above, so we're going to be removing this tile. Right now, luckily the tiles aren't actually nailed, so this will be quite easy. Usually, obviously you've got tiles that are nailed. The only difference would be that you would get a second pry bar out and lift the nail out. But essentially what you do is you lift your tile out. Now on the back here you'll see that there's little nibs and notches on the back, so what we do is we grind them out just so that everything's really flat for the roof hook to go on. And then from there you would be screwing your roof hook down onto the rafter. In this instance the roof isn't boarded, but it does have counterbatting, which is essentially an indication for where your rafters are on the roof, so it makes it quite easy for us. But we'll grind this out just now and we'll show you how we do that. Right, and that is the tile ground out. So as you can see, that compared to that, it's nice and flat for the roof hook to go on. And from there, essentially just put the tile back in, slide that up temporarily, and then what we'll do is we'll install the roof hook, pull the tile back down, and you'll see that everything will sit nice and flush. So this is a Vanderwalk roof hook. Now this has got an adjustable plate on it, so depending on where about your tile lies versus the rafter, you can sort of move it side to side. But we use 2 screws to secure this. So we'll do that just now, fire that in, and we'll show you how that is done. These tiles, they actually sit quite nice, so the roof actually sits perfectly in that wee groove. Now we would screw that down into the rafter, like so. And from there, all we do is we lift this tile up a wee bit, slide that tile back down, get your crowbar back out, and then from there you can see everything's sitting nice and uniform, so we've not disturbed the roof in any way. Right, so just as a quick sort of comparison, just to show you why we do that, I'm not going to screw this down just for example's sake, but essentially if we want to have ground that out, I'll rest that into there now. If we were to take that down, your tile is obviously, it sits quite high there, and obviously if you were to imagine any water cascading down the roof in heavy rain, that's not going to be watertight, so that's why we grind the tiles out. Right, so this is the Vanderwalk rail. Now how that is secured essentially is you come up, rest that on top of your brackets there, always aim just to get them nice and in line. So you put that into there. Now these have got a clip front and back, so you kind of have to wedge it in at first. You'll hear a little clip, there you go, and then from there you essentially screw that bolt in and it just secures the rail, makes it all nice and tight. These are height adjustable as well, just so that when you're laying the 2 panels down, if you're doing 2 different arrays, if one's slightly higher you can adjust them and move them up and down. Right, so from there, these have got a little locking nut on the back, so you would get your gun with a T30 bit. I tend to start these off on their highest setting rather than having them all sort of mix match. It's easier if you just keep them all at the same height from the get-go, and from there if you need to adjust them up and down it's a bit easier. So you would screw that on, nice and tight. Now that's got 2 teeth in the front and 2 in the back. They essentially sort of pierce into the rail a wee bit and it just keeps it absolutely solid. So you would do that all the way along until you've got your full rail. Then essentially that is what your end result would be. So the rails, as standard, they come in around about a 3.6 metre length. Obviously in this instance we would need a bit of rail and a half. So to couple the rails together, this is a Vanderwalk roof coupler. So how you would install that, it's very, very simple, to be honest. So the rail's hollow in the centre, so you essentially just put this coupler in here, give that a little slap, and that will remain nice and tight once you couple the two of them together. Right now, obviously there's a little bit of an excess going off the edge of the roof, that will get trimmed back at the end. Right, we're now at the stage where we're just fitting the panels, so we've got all the bracket and rail mounted to the roof. To do this, it's actually very straightforward, so to believe it or not, it's the easiest part of the job. So you would essentially rest the panel down onto the rail, you connect the cables together, and then you've got 2 different types of clamps. So you get an end clamp, that's for the end of the system, so we'll show you that in a little bit. But these ones right now are the mid clamps. So the way you fit these is you essentially, it's just a little clip, so you just pry it over the top of the bar and you heel for the wee click, like so. Slide that in. That also acts as a spacer for the 2 panels so that everything stays uniform, nice and neat. So you chuck one on each rail and then you rest the panel down and clamp them down, but we'll show you that in a little second. Right, so mounting the panels, it's just a case of sending Reese up to the top. Rest that down onto the rail, and then obviously the most important part is you connect the panels together. So underneath them there's a little positive and a negative connector. So you just take them out either side, clip them together, and then all you're doing is just slide the panel against those mids, pull it down so it's nice and level. Again, you take your gun, go there, and you just tighten those clamps on. And then from there, yeah, you're essentially rinsing and repeating. What we do to keep the system nice and straight is we are essentially governed by the courses of the tile, so we just match them up with the course of the roof. Right, so now that we've finished installing all the panels, the final stage of our installs is we install the EnviroGuard mesh. This essentially just protects your system from things like any rodents, pigeons, any unwanted guests essentially. We appreciate AJ Renewables, your system is a big investment, so you want to protect that. It is very simple, so essentially all you do is just you wrap a mesh around the system and you get these little clips that pushes into the side of the panel. It just prevents us having to actually mechanically fix or put a screw through the side of your panel, which would void your warranty. So yep, that is the final stage, and we just protects your system and future proofs it.